Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to Live from NCCE. I am so excited to be here today with you because we are with Clint Weinberg. Clint is one of our distinguished professional learning specialists from NCCE. Clinton works at Flagler or teaches at Flagler College in which city in Florida?
St. Augustine.
St. Augustine. So it's got to be beautiful weather there, I would assume right now. Hot? Yeah.
Yes. Not
And
hot yet. Not yet.
not yet? Okay, good. We could come visit you then. But Clint is a master of AI. Of course, he's certified or certifiable in Minecraft, an MIE expert, master trainer, and all the good stuff. He's been teaching for more than 20 years. We are thrilled to have him here with us today to talk about magic AI and pedagogy for all grades. Clint, it's so good to see you.
It's great to see you, Tammy, and thank you so much for having me on Live from NCCE. This is a real treat. It's a lot of fun, and I hope I can live up to the hype that you just built right now. Okay, Tammy?
I have no doubt that you will.
That was a lot, though. That was a lot. Um, I've got to say, and this is what I often tell my students, I share with colleagues, when I'm working with other educators for NCCE, I am very, very forthright in making sure it's clear. I am an expert in nothing. However, I'm an expert at, I'm going to find an answer if I don't know it. So, every day presents new opportunities to learn. And, I'm sure that some of you who are watching today are going to be able to teach me something new. I always like to learn whenever I'm in any sort of opportunity to share information. It's great to get feedback and to get, just to get other people's perspectives. So we're going to jump on into Magic School AI. And I must admit, this was something that kind of, I wasn't aware of it for a while, and my good friend and fellow professional learning specialist, Kim Lantroop, was the one who told me about it. And once I started diving into Magic School, I realized, wow, okay, great. This is doing things, it's more streamlined for things I wanted to do as an educator, because I can assure you, I was checking out ChatGPT for ways that I could just get some draft ideas. For me, a lot of times when I'm planning instructional activities or creating a rubric, things like that, I will, spend a lot of time thinking it through. And, as an educator, we just don't have that many hours in the day. So once I discovered all the things that Magic School AI could do, and particularly, because I'm currently in higher ed, but I spent nearly 20 years working in K through 6, I can really use this for a lot that I do every day with my college level students. So we're going to jump on in here. All right. Oh, no. Little icons not showing up there. But if you'd like to join in the conversation today and share ways that you're using AI to increase productivity, to streamline tasks that you're doing, support your approach to instruction, okay, that's really kind of where I'm thinking with this pedagogy side is, our approach to teaching and learning, and using AI to complement that in things that we otherwise would be spending a lot more time on, takes up our time and away from students. So that little box there that's blank, that would be the former Twitter or the X icon. So if you want to go on there and post any response using hashtag IamNCCE or hashtag NCCE Live, you can mention me at Weinberg Clinton or mention NCCE_EdTech, and share some ways that you are using AI to support things that you're creating for your students. Alrighty, so today we're going to explore a couple of topics, well actually quite a few topics, and first, this was developed for educators and students, okay? So Magic School has, I think, a really great approach, And once we get into this and see all of the different options that are available, if you haven't used it before, I think you're going to be pretty blown away, because quite honestly, I am still discovering things or new ways to use some of these tools. We're going to explore, leveraging AI to save time, streamlining tasks with the 60 plus tools that are currently within Magic School AI. I remember when I first started using it, it was 40 tools. Now they're up to 60. And it's a great resource to use for lesson planning, rubrics, differentiation for our scaffolding instruction for our various learners. And then there are also training resources that they offer. So in digging around about Magic School AI, this was created by an educator and a principal, and it's a powerful tool for teachers. It is also FERPA compliant. So that's something that's really important to know too, considering that now they have this new edition of Magic Student. So it's not just for educators, but now there's a component where if it is permissible in your school district, educators can use this with their students and teach them the responsible and appropriate use for AI. I know a lot of folks maybe think, oh goodness, I don't want my students using AI because they're just going to cheat and get all the answers. But as soon as you make something forbidden, that's when they're really not going to use it appropriately. So I do think that this is great, that there is a student component built in so that they can start using it and understand ways that AI can be beneficial and support their thinking and kind of guide them through some of the other, tasks that are just time consuming, but perhaps not getting into the deeper level of knowledge. It's important to note that Magic School AI, there is a free version of this. But if you want to get all the bells and whistles, Magic School Plus has unlimited usage and a few more features. I've had my Magic School Plus account for, as long as I've been using it, and it's very reasonable, and I find it to be very, very worth it for the time it saves me, particularly. So just a few examples. So, we can leverage AI to save time for drafting personalized learning experiences for our students, creating assignments, assessments, and rubrics, and also use it as a virtual assistant for drafting emails, for proofreading. Now that's a good one, especially for me, because a lot of times I know when I'm typing something out, maybe an announcement I want to post in our learning management system to share out with my students. And sometimes I just don't catch little typos or misspellings, until I publish it. Same thing with email. It's not until you send it and then you realize, whoops, mistakes. So it's a great tool for proofreading, and then also for letters of recommendation. A lot of times, former students will reach out and ask for that, and that's wonderful, except they'll ask for it and they need it like tomorrow. And I don't always have time for that. So confession, sorry, former students, I have been using AI to help me just get, a good base letter of recommendation where I can add and fill in the blanks with all of the pertinent details that I know about you. Now, moving on, why use Magic School AI? Well, the bigger question is why not? So it can reduce your workload when you apply it to routine tasks. Again, like emails, proofreading, creating class newsletters, because that's something that can be really time consuming. We're going to dig into creating some lesson plans, assignments, assessments, and rubrics. And this one I particularly find to be wonderful. I wish I had this when I was working in special education, because you can use AI to help create some draft IEP goals, to get ideas for accommodations for our students with disabilities, and then also to generate some report card comments. And again, this is not meant to replace the human touch. But as I was reviewing some things within the Magic School platform, and I forgive me if I misquote this, but I believe what I read was, 80% of like this workload, let it be AI, and then 20% of the educator, like doing the finishing touches and finessing it, because there's all of this that we typically do when we're building out instruction and assignments that, again, is time consuming and could be just generated in a matter of seconds. And then you can go in, review it, customize it, make sure that, that there's no bias and all of that, all those important aspects. Next, Magic School AI training resources. So I thought this was really great. They have their own certification courses and they don't take very long to do. So there are a series of YouTube videos that guide you through everything, some questions to answer. And then when you're done, you get your certificate. There are community resources, a Facebook group where you can connect with other educators who are using it. And their YouTube channel is full of a ton of resources. Now, again, as I mentioned a moment ago, AI should complement teaching. We don't want it to replace it entirely. And again, I think from the purpose and the perspective of as an educator, a busy educator, I typically know the things that I'm wanting to do with my students, but it's nice to just see it take shape quickly so that I'm not spending a ton of time having to go through details of just the minutia. Now, one thing I wanted to share, I did a couple of kind of samples, I guess you could say, and within the tools that we're going to explore. So one of these I thought was really great for like developing, social skills and awareness. There's restorative reflection. So in this case, you can put in a prompt for something that you're wanting to find a way to get students to be thinking a little more deeply about their actions. So in this case, I think I'll get into the prompt when we go explore the tool, but it was essentially that you spoke negatively about a peer, and then what is the impact of that? So then it's created a really great restorative practice reflection here. So first question is, how did your negative comments impact the peer you're talking about? Reflect on why it's important to support a collaborative learning environment, especially in the performing arts. And then what steps can you take to repair the harm caused by your actions and contribute positively to the collaborative setting in the future? Now, in all honesty, could I have come up with all of that on my own? Yes, and it would have taken me a lot longer than it took whenever I, put in my prompt in Magic School AI. So again, we're going to explore some of these tools in a few minutes. There's project-based learning. So this is another thing that, I particularly find to be helpful when working with, collegiate level students. And in fact, I'm going to be doing this assignment with my students. They're going to be analyzing and researching culture and heritage of the choral repertoire that we've studied this semester. So I do have a pretty varied background in education. Started out as a music educator and then worked in special education for a number of years. And then now I'm back into music, but in higher ed. So, the journey's been really neat because I can kind of, from my experiences, I can kind of tie a lot of this together. And so this is going to be really fun when we get into it. So again, as I mentioned, Magic School is very big on making sure it's being used responsibly. So this is an acknowledgement for students. If that's something your school district allows and the teacher decides they want to use it, the students see this and they need to acknowledge that, your teacher can see your activity. The math answers are not reliable, and interacting with AI takes practice. And that's something that I've definitely learned through using a lot of these language models. AI is a tool and not a replacement for thinking, and so on. So we're going to get in and explore some AI here. I'm going to go ahead and share another screen. Alrighty. So I am right here in Magic School AI. I have logged into my account. Now, when you are looking at this platform, once you're logged in, and again, they have a free account. You can get a free trial of Plus, but then there's the free version after that. They now have Magic School and Magic Student. So we're going to start with Magic School and just explore what all of these tools are that are available. So when you click on that little toggle, you see it slides. Well, I want Magic School. Now I've got some of my favorites here saved at the top, and they've got the little star illuminated. So a rubric generator. That's something that I really rely on because I want to make sure I can provide students with very clear expectations for assignments. You know, a lot of times things can be very subjective, so I want to make sure I'm clear, and I use the rubric generator quite a bit. As I was mentioning, the project-based learning. This is another great tool for fleshing out an idea for a project for students. The choice board, universal design for learning. This is probably my favorite because it's allowing us to take activities or even standards that ordinarily maybe we're kind of just thinking in one way of how students can show what they know, and this is giving them choice and voice. So I am going to actually click right here on this choice board for UDL. And as you can see here, we've got our grade level that we can choose from, and it's pre-K all the way up into university level. And then we have the learning goal, standard or objective, or topic. So it's very broad in what you can put here to generate some content. And then if you have additional detail for the choice board, you can include that there in the bottom. I love that you can click here on the microphone and you can just speak it if that's easier for you. But I'm going to go ahead and just grab a standard here. I've gone on to CPalms and open that up. Okay, so I've got a math standard for 3rd grade, add and subtract multi-digit whole numbers, build an understanding of multiplication and division. All right, so right now I'm not going to put anything here in this box. I just want to see what it generates for me. And aha, the magic begins. And if you're familiar with AI, you see how fast this works, right? So now it has given me a math operations choice board. So for assignments, we have multi-digit addition, subtraction, multiplication exploration, division scavenger hunt, math riddles, all kinds of fun stuff here. Real life math reflection, and there's a little description, okay? So if I am, if this is something I think I might want to use, I can just copy it. I can save this resource into my output so that I will be able to find it again. So I'm going to do that. I'm saying, okay, math. I'm just going to call this one math 3rd. So I'll remember. And then export. So this is really great. You can export it to Google Docs, Microsoft Word, or you can print it. Now, if I, thought, I don't know about this. I want to change this. I can edit my prompt and I can go in and make a change. Now, if you'll notice here, I put in a 3rd grade standard, right? And I had 8th grade selected. Well, let's see if it makes any difference whenever I go change this to 3rd grade. Sometimes AI is going to catch all of that, and sometimes it doesn't. So this is where I see that it's got some different stuff here. I've got division, dynamo, math magic show. All right, so it's one of those things you've just got to double check what you're doing and really explore what it generates, because I never take anything that I get from any AI and just copy and paste it completely. Instead, I always make sure to verify that it's correct, and that it's something that I really would want to use. Okay, so I do have, I think, a better example of. I'm going to show some of my output from before. Okay, this was something that I've used with my students. All right. So I gave them an assignment of the musculoskeletal system and body alignment. So the impact on breathing and vocal tone production for singers. And this was a fantastic, lesson and activity that it generated in just a matter of seconds. Guided practice, independent practice, and so on. Magic School also, they're conscientious with accessibility. So there's this option here to speak, and it will read everything to you. So just like, an immersive reader function. And if you like what's generated, you can thumbs up. If it's not quite what you're looking for, thumbs down. And, very similar to other AI models that we maybe have been familiar with and explored. Now, moving on. Okay, here we go. So we've got our multiple choice assessment. So again, so many tools, and there's no way I can show but just a few of them, and I'm not even really able to dig in the way I would like to. But you can just easily choose whatever grade level you're wanting to create a multiple choice assessment for, the number of questions that you want, and put in your topic, standard, text, all of that. Well, again, I did some of these, already. Some I've used and shared with other educators. So I will share with you. Here we go. Here was one that I created for a teacher I was working with. They were studying the long walk. And so, and it was particularly one specific chapter from this text. And so I put into the prompt, 10th grade. Comprehension was the type of questions that I wanted. And then based on chapter 5, The Long Walk in the Text, Navajo History and Land of the People by Bill Acree. So that was what I put into this, and it generated these comprehension questions. So when I was sharing this with the teacher, I said, does this look accurate to you? Because she was the one who was familiar with this chapter, and I was just kind of helping her out with some things. And she was quite impressed. So that's just one example. That's, comprehension questions. Now, I have another here. I have an assessment. Okay, here we go. So this was creating a multiple choice assessment on the Navajo Long Walk by Nancy Armstrong. And so again, I just put in my prompt, I selected the grade level that this was for, the number of questions that I wanted, and asked it to create an assessment based on the book. I gave it the title and the author, and in a matter of seconds, it generated this. And when I shared this with the teacher, she was quite impressed, and then said, okay, I'm going to be exploring this tool this weekend. So I know I've rambled and rambled. There's so much that I wanted to show and share. I'm not sure. Tammy, can we find out how many people who are watching, if they currently use Magic School AI? Are you there, Tammy? Okay. Looks like I'm on my own here.
Agby's here. Greg, I think you use it. Jim, you use it, don't you? Oh, there's Dr. John. Yep, you use it as well. Yep, I knew you did. And I assume Kim Landtroop is here. You were mentioning her earlier. So got to assume that. Diane Harrington does. Maria Turner, Shannon Davenport. I do. So I think you've got a lot of users here of Magic School AI.
Well, being that we've got a lot of folks who are familiar with it, I would love if some of you would like to share, drop in the chat, ways that you're using that might be different than anything I have spoken about. Because, this greater collective hive mind is where we always, learning from one another. And I'm always excited to know how other people are using tools that, because again, I can get stuck in using something one way, right? I'm also a creature of habit. And so once I have kind of decided, oh, I'm using this tool for this task, sometimes the blinders go on and I don't think about other ways I could use it.
Well, Kim is talking about engaging students and being silly. She likes using the song generator for content. Taylor Swift on text features. Yes, please. That sounds like.
Yes.
And Latoya Pugh has been playing around with a customized feature in Magic Student, tweaking and revising the prompt she says is essential before launching to students. Totally agree. Jim Ekrut was saying the same thing. It's about the pedagogy. AI can put it together for you, but you've got to take the time to read it, as you mentioned, and tweak it.
Yeah. And so right here in Magic Student, if we toggle over to that, now this was one that I really thought was fun. I had already set one of these up, like a virtual classroom, if you will. And these were just some of my favorites that I looked at. I particularly liked the book suggestions because, goodness, as an adult, I can use that. But I know that students sometimes want some book suggestions, right? Also, the character chatbot. Now, that one was really fun. So once you have set this up, you can go here to launch to students. And okay, so it's showing my room that I had already started. I can just click on my room here. And whenever I go in here and look at the output, okay, so again, I was being a student myself. I was going in under a different profile. I have here the output for different questions that I asked it as a student. So one was book suggestions, and it was for university level. And the interests were vocology, vocal performance, singing technique, and vocal pedagogy. And interestingly enough, this is one of my favorite books, actually, Richard Miller's Structure of Singing, that sits in my studio that I reference frequently, vocology. So I chose something that I am very familiar with, and so I was looking at all of these, and I was like, oh, yep. These are legitimate sources. So that was really neat to see that something that's kind of a niche area, I think, in terms of we're not talking about just having used this for fourth grade math or for language arts, but, I'm asking you about vocal pedagogy, real world connections. So another one that I put here in asking Raina, my chatbot, about university storytelling through song. So it's so incredible how quickly it's just pulling this stuff together and, can get your brain going in a way you didn't think. Another favorite one. So this was geared towards 7th grade. And Tammy, you were talking about you're going to get to go hear a symphony rehearsal, and Richard Strauss is one of my favorite composers, particularly the opera Der Rosenkavalier, and the final trio in that opera is just I think the most glorious piece of music ever written. And so I asked the chatbot, the character chatbot, about this final trio, and I just thought this was such a cool such a cool thing, because here it's giving me this background on the Richard Strauss character. Okay, so then I said, tell me about the final trio in Der Rosenkavalier. And then the final trio from Der Rosenkavalier is one of the most enchanting and emotionally, it was just so cool because I'm familiar with this, so I'm like, okay, yes, the Marcelin, Count Octavian, Sophie. So it's pretty fascinating how So even if you're like, if you're a PE teacher, if you're an art teacher, if you teach a foreign language, you can use this in ways that you probably would not have imagined. And I know I kind of jumped all over the place with this. Hopefully, if anything, I got you interested, and then you'll go on to Magic School and check out their fantastic resources. Really quickly, because I know we're running out of time. Here on the left rail, there's a training tab. So as I mentioned, they have these certification courses. It takes no time to do, but it gives you, great examples of ways that you can use the tools. And one last thing, because I did not get to this, sometimes when you're not sure how to use it, you want to see a good exemplar model, right? So let's just go right here to this. Okay, accommodation suggestions. At the top here, if you click on exemplar, it is going to give you a prompt. And so for this one, just as a suggestion, 7th grade, for a student who prefers to be alone, struggles to understand social cues, has trouble starting or keeping conversations, and this is what it generates. So suggestions for accommodation. So perhaps you have not had a student with, a particular disability, and you're not quite sure how to accommodate them appropriately. Again, this is not the end all be all, but it sure, can sure get you started and give you some ideas about social skills, peer mentoring, visual supports, and all of that. So this is really designed for everybody in education. I don't care if you're pre-K or like me at the university level. It's fantastic. So thanks for letting me share about this. I'm certainly glad to answer any questions I can, but I think we've got a bunch of like seasoned users out there who probably know more about this tool than I do.
Well, I think you hit upon something there, because a lot of people are afraid, right? You hear AI and everybody's like, AI. But when you show us examples like this, when we teachers can see actual examples of how it can be used. Shannon in chat was talking about, she was talking to someone who needed drone reading passages for 4th graders to have certain grammatical errors. Shannon showed her how to use Magic School AI, and boom, how much time did she save? And isn't it more important to have the time to craft the lessons for the students rather than coming up with a bunch of questions? As we all say, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm grateful. Thank you, Kim, for telling me about this, because I was using ChatGPT, and I was getting really good at refining my questions. I still use it, and I treat it like my virtual friend and a virtual colleague to bounce ideas off of, because that's another great thing. I didn't really get into Raina, their chatbot, but once you put in your prompt and it generates a response, then it gives you additional prompts after that, and that's me. I need that little nudge, like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Well, let me see what happens if I explored this route, so it's a really fascinating tool. And I think we just need to embrace exploring it before we completely close our minds to it or condemn it or think, oh no, it's going to replace us. Well, not if we don't let it. We have to learn how to work with these tools.
Mm-hmm. I love how you talked about it as a digital collaborator. I hadn't thought of it in those terms. I love the series House, and House, right, always needed people to bounce his ideas off of to get where he needed to go. And to have a digital assistant, if you don't have a collaborator nearby, a human one, that's a boon. That is just a big plus. So
and any of you who have worked with me know that I always ask questions, and it's not, I'm never because I'm trying to challenge people. I'm trying to understand it more deeply for myself. And then what have I not thought about? And that's where this is, kind of cool, because it can spark your interest in, exploring things down a different path that maybe you didn't even consider.
I love it. Clint, thank you so much. I heard you were a big hit on the MIA expert call this morning. And so thank you for sharing that with you're a master trainer, aren't you? MIA master trainer. So he's just got it all going on, my friend. So follow Clint on the Twitters. It's is it Weinberg Clinton? It's opposite,
Weinberg
right?
Clinton. Yes.
Weinberg,
Yes.
there it is. Thank you very much for putting that up there. So follow him on Twitter, and then stay tuned for the next month from Live from NCCE. We have Dr. Brad Johnson. If you are into relationships before rigor, grace before grades, love before lessons, then join us for Dr. Brad. That'll be our finale for this season. But Clint, what a delight, what a pleasure. Thank you for sharing and gifting us with all of your wonderful knowledge and magical knowledge.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thanks for joining tonight. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us from Live from NCCE. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.